Good day, friends. I am going to tell you a story about the French and Indian War. Did you know that George Washington was once a British lieutenant colonel? Most people don't know that George Washington started his military career in the British Army. And also, George Washington kind of sort of started the French and Indian War. He was part of an incident that directly led to the beginning of this international war that lasted for multiple years. I'm going to tell you about it. Our story begins in the beautiful Ohio River Valley. This area was valuable because it was full of natural resources and it was a hub for water transportation routes. There were ships loaded with goods coming and going all throughout the Ohio River Valley. And because this land was so valuable, multiple countries wanted to claim it and control it. Two countries who wanted to claim this land were England and France. In the 1750s, England and France did not like each other very much. And both countries claimed that the Ohio River Valley belonged to them. So French soldiers started to build forts and occupy the Ohio River Valley. The British Army saw this happening and said, hang on just a second. If we let these French soldiers occupy the Ohio River Valley, we will never get them out. They will never leave. We can't allow this to happen. So in comes George Washington to our story. George Washington was a 22-year-old, very young in terms of being a lieutenant colonel in the British Army. He was a young, inexperienced man, and he was given the task of taking some men into the Ohio Valley and telling the French to leave. So that's exactly what he did. He went into the Ohio Valley. He was pretty much laughed out. He went back to the British commanders and he said, hey, they didn't listen to anything I said. I was not able to make any progress with them at all. So the French are still there in the Ohio Valley. Well, the British commander said, all right, George, next time we want you to take more men and we want you to be a little more firm. We want you to be a little bit more forceful and get the French out of the Ohio Valley. So George took more soldiers with him. He hired a Native American translator from the Seneca Nation to help him and the soldiers successfully move through the Ohio Valley and be able to communicate at least somewhat with the Native American people who were living there. The translator, as we're going to find out later, had a big grudge. He was very angry with the French. And this is going to cause an incident that is going to change the course of history. So what happened was George Washington and his men, they decided to try to do a surprise attack on some French soldiers. And the surprise attack didn't go very well. The British soldiers and the French soldiers start fighting. There was a skirmish. A skirmish isn't an all-out battle. It's more of a small fight where British soldiers and French soldiers were fighting, face to face, very close proximity. During this fight, Jumanville was the French commander. Jumanville was seriously injured. And he was kind of laying to the side, very injured after the fighting ended. After the fighting ended, Jumanville was killed by the Native American translator. The Native American translator took his tomahawk and hit Jumanville in the head. According to reports of soldiers, British soldiers who were there at this skirmish, Jumanville took the Native American translator took the brains of Jumanville out of his head and washed his hands in the brains. Very gruesome. It was definitely a sign of disrespect toward Jumanville and toward French occupation and French soldiers. The translator did admit that he killed Jumanville as revenge. He said that French soldiers killed his father, boiled him, and ate him. So unfortunately, this event kicked off the French and Indian War, and it spread like wildfire throughout the continent and even stretched into Europe. So that's the story of how George Washington sort of started an international war called the French and Indian War.